most of North America was covered in glaciers, right? Until about 12,000 years ago, where the glaciers sort of rapidly disappeared. And that theory right now is up, or that the science on that is right now is up for debate, whether or not it slowly melted or if there was something that caused it to rapidly change. So, it becomes very complicated to keep human, whether it's remains or evidence that humans were there. It makes it very hard to survive. Like, think of a piece of wood. How long do you think it would survive just the weather and the elements? Like, how many years before it decays? Maybe
2 years.
maybe 25 years, 50 years, depending on what happens to it. Do you think, like, let's say you make like a wooden spear, and one day you lose it while hunting. Do you think that wooden spear would still be a wooden spear 1,000 years later?
No.
Right, probably not. So it's very hard for this stuff to survive. So it's very difficult to know exactly how long indigenous peoples were here, but just the language diversity helps us to understand to some extent that maybe they were here for a lot more than 10,000, 12,000 years. And it's personally, I think it's really unfortunate just how much of that language got lost, because it's a very fascinating culture. It's very, like, so as someone who's Muslim, the Arabic culture is also one of storytelling, narration, and memorization, right? So like indigenous people, they didn't write down their language. They just spoke stories. And so a language where you're essentially needing to encode information in stories and words is quite fascinating, right? Whereas with English, you just write stuff down, right? And then you pass that forward in a book. Let me just see what else is going on here. Okay, we'll do 2 more slides and then I'll start looking at some essays here. So in Canada, we specifically protect the French language. Based on this slide and based on your own knowledge, why do you think the French language is protected in the Canadian Charter? Why should we go out of our way to protect the French language? Anyone? Any guesses? Why do you think our country goes out of its way to protect the French language?
It's slowly getting extinct.
Like most other languages, it's being slowly assimilated by, let's say, the use of English. Is there any other reasons we might think that the French language is protected over other languages?
In religion, Mr. Olson mentioned how, like, during World War I, that, like, Canada was, like, close with France in a way, because they were close with Britain, so that might be why.
Yeah, so the history of France and Britain plays an important role, right? France and Britain in World War I and II were on the same side, they're allied. Anything before that?
Who was the language of the settlers in Canada?
Yeah, right, that's kind of one of the main arguments used, that Canada itself as a country, not looking at the land of North America, but Canada as a country, one of the foundational groups was the French. And so for that reason, we kind of protect that identity. Should Canada do more to protect Indigenous languages? Should there be more access to education in Indigenous languages? Have any of you ever had the opportunity to learn, let's say, an Indigenous? No. Have you heard anyone speak, let's say, in an Indigenous language? No. Yeah, some of you. Like, even on YouTube, right? Yeah. They sound very different. It's very interesting. Was it your class I showed the Click language?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Click language. It's in.
That was our presentation.
What's that?
That was our presentation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We'll move on. So this is a bit of the legal history of why we're a bilingual language. You know, it starts with the British North America Act of 1876, and then maintains being protected in the Constitution Act 1982, which entrenches the right to receive federal government services in either French or English, so you can get in one or the other. I think nowadays they're more accommodating to getting translators to help communicate. There's only one province that's officially bilingual. Any guesses?
Oh, New Brunswick.
New Brunswick is correct. Right, in Quebec, they're not really bilingual because they don't like English whatsoever. Okay, I'll let you fill that in, and you'll go back to the Hmong case study.